This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. All right, so let's talk about something that's going to become more and more relevant as time comes up, which is the Brendan Sorsby situation surrounding the Cleveland Browns. So if you don't know, Brendan Sorsby is a quarterback prospect some people thought could possibly be a first-round pick, who is right now in a issue where he may not be eligible to play college football. And if he's not eligible to play college football, he will very likely enter the supplemental draft, making him a factor for not the 2027 offseason, but the 2026 offseason. So far from Pete the Mel, the update on this situation is this. The Ncaa has denied Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby's request for reinstatement for eligibility for the 2026 season. The school president publicly backed Sorsby's desire to play for Texas Tech this upcoming season amid a complex situation. Now, some of you might be asking, why is it that Brendan Sorsby is not eligible to play college football this year? What did he do? Well, he got in trouble for gambling, right? He got caught gambling on through a number of different ways. I've done a video about that when it comes to Brendan Sorsby. So if you want more details on that, please look for my original video on Brendan Sorsby and what he has been, accused of as far as gambling go. So we talked about it. Too long didn't read for me. He definitely seems to have an extensive history of gambling, and I can understand how some people consider that concerning. Me personally, I'm no stranger to gambling. I'm not going to act like gambling is something that's morally upsetting to me. There's gambling ads on this video. So I will tend to be less judgmental when it comes to Brendan Sorsby about that sort of thing, if I'm being honest. And I really only care about the gambling aspect of this as far as like his NFL prospects are concerned. And as far as things that football players can be in trouble with, as far as like the business of the league, this is one of the worst things you could do. But as far as like the morality of things you could do, I think there's been far worse things players have done that the Cleveland Browns have drafted. But in order to talk about this Brendan Sorsby thing, we need to talk about a lot of different things, right? One, what is his value in the supplemental draft? Two, what are the odds that he gets suspended by the NFL in addition to being in the supplemental draft itself? Three, how good is Brendan Sorsby as a player? And is he worth it as a player, right? And four, are the Browns in a situation where this is an avenue that they can consider? We're going to talk about all four of those things. But first, I do have to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a fun way to earn cash while you watch your favorite teams. No complex betting rules, just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Here are my picks for this upcoming season, AFC North edition. Jimmy Bernard, I have less than 475. This has to do with volume available in Pittsburgh's offense. Quincy, I have over 975. Browns improved line. I think the run game is going to be better with it. Chase Brown, under 900 yards. Joe Burrow equals less rushing yards usually for the Bengals offense. Mark Andrews, more than 475 yards. Lamar's going to need a safety blanket. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You could follow me on the app at Quinn_C to see all my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineup to download the app using the link in the description. So let's talk about the first part of this, right? In order to know what his value is going to be in the supplemental draft, we need to not only have an idea of Brendan Sorsby's prospects as a football player, but also understanding the environment that he's stepping into. And part of that environment is, will the NFL suspend Brendan Sorsby after he declares eligibility for the supplemental draft, which is certainly a possibility, right? People will remember Terrell Pryor had a suspension he dealt with after entering the supplemental draft. It's usually something that could come with the territory when it comes to a supplemental draft. This is where it gets tricky, right? Like, admittedly, for the NFL and for Brendan Sorsby, that becomes very complicated. Because when you think about why Terrell Pryor was suspended by the NFL, it was not because he received improper benefits by the NCAA. That is a common misnomer, right? A lot of people will have you believe that Terrell Pryor got suspended because of the same exact thing that got him suspended by the NCAA. That wasn't what happened. The reason Terrell Pryor got suspended by the NCAA is, well, not the NCAA. The reason Terrell Pryor got suspended by the NFL, my bad, is because they ruled that he was violating their policy in trying to circumvent the NFL's eligibility rules. So that's what Terrell Pryor actually got suspended for, circumventing the NFL's eligibility rules by getting in this trouble and trying to qualify for the supplemental draft, which they suspended him for. And that's how he got suspended. The point is, the NFL cannot just suspend you because you did something wrong in college. You have to have done something that results in a violation of the NFL rules. Now, the NFL can suspend you for violating the NFL's rules before you're in the NFL. They can certainly do that. They have the right to do that. If you enter the NFL, you did something in college that they feel like broke the rules, if they choose to prosecute it, they can suspend you for it if you broke one of the NFL's rules. But here's the tricky part with this Brendan Sorsby situation. Nothing that Brendan Sorsby has done has technically broken any of the NFL's rules. I will clarify the rules for those of you guys who don't know, but these are the 6 main rules for the NFL on gambling and integrity monitoring. This is from August 22nd of 2024, their most recent update to these rules. 1, you can never bet on the NFL. Includes other NFL events, including the draft, the combine, the Pro Bowl, and NFL honors. So Brendan Sorsby did not make any bets, as far as I'm aware of, on the NFL. He made Turkish baseball league bets, but that's fine, according to the NFL's policy. 2, don't have somebody bet for you. Now, this is where Sorsby could get suspended. There is reporting in there that suggests that he had other people bet for him. Now, it's not clear whether it was Sorsby betting through proxy accounts or whether Sorsby had other physical proxies that betted for him, right? But you can't ask family members, friends, or other people to place bets for you. You can't place bets that aren't in your name, I would assume is in that, but I'm not 100% sure if that's in there. We know Sorsby did place bets outside of his name. Don't know if that's technically in the rule book here, right? You cannot gamble at your team's facility or stadium while traveling for a road game or while staying at the team hotel. Basically, if the team is paying for wherever the roof is over your head, you cannot gamble there if you're an NFL player. Far as we know, he has not gambled in NFL team facilities, right? Do not share team inside information. Now, this might be something that they can get him on, right? Because he did bet on an Indiana game as a member of the Indiana football team. Don't share information that is already or hasn't been announced for the team. We don't know if he actually insider betted, but it could be speculated that he did. Don't enter a sports book during the NFL playing season. Do not play daily fantasy football. Additional rule applicable to coaches, staff, and personnel. So that has nothing to do with the players. So the NFL's rules on gambling are a lot more lenient than people realize. You can gamble on anything but the NFL, right? And you can do the gambling as long as you don't do it in a NFL sanctioned building, which does seem fair to me. As far as I know, Sorsby didn't break any of those rules, right? Sorsby certainly broke some rules, but he did not break those rules, which makes this a little bit more complicated, right? You know, the NFL wants to set a strict precedent on its gambling policies. I think they're going to do an investigation on this once he does enter the supplemental draft. And I think they're going to make it clear that they intend to put him on the commissioner exempt list for a period of time while they're doing that investigation on him. Whether they're going to be able to actually suspend him is a little bit different because they don't really have the most solid footing to actually suspend him. Again, the closest thing is the proxy betting thing, and it's debatable whether that happened yet. As far as I know, maybe more has broken in this story to where he did like definitively have somebody else place bets for him that he's not allowed to bet, right? If you have somebody else place a bet for you that's still allowed as far as NFL rules go. So, you know, if he had somebody else place that Turkish baseball league bet, he's fine, I think, right? I don't think it extends. I think it's like if you have somebody else bet for you on the NFL, I think that's implied in the rule there. So I don't think they can really get him on that, right? That's the NFL's rules there. He had to have violated one of those rules in order to get suspended by the NFL. I don't know what they're going to do there. That's a tricky situation for the league. It's a part of this story that's going underreported, but that will become very important because whether he gets suspended or not is going to also affect what teams are comfortable in giving up for him in a supplemental draft. Now, when it comes to supplemental draft picks, it's important to understand it's very rare that a first-round pick gets used in a supplemental draft. I do not think it's likely that a team will use a first-round pick in this specific situation, given the uncertainty of Sorsby as a prospect, given the uncertainty of Sorsby's standing with the NFL, and given the nature of his controversy, which is gambling. Those three things are going to stop a team from using a first-round pick on him. If you want to know like a situation that would create a moment where a team would use a first-round supplemental pick on a player, it's like if Arch Manning just decided out the blue to declare for the draft right now. They would use a first-round pick on Arch Manning, right? Bernie Kosar, when he tried to manipulate his way to the Cleveland Browns, they used the first-round pick on him. Basically, nothing can be wrong with that player if they're going to use a first-round supplemental pick on him. It's just a player that they would have valued in the first round anyways that's coming out early. So doubt that's going to be a first-round pick for him. The ceiling for this kind of situation is usually a second-round pick. I think the sweet spot for this conversation is third and fourth round pick. But that requires us to have a conversation about Brendan Sorsby as a football player. So what does Brendan Sorsby have on his resume? What does he bring to the table? What does he not have so far in his game? Talk about Brendan Sorsby, the football player. What does he bring to the table? He has a strong arm. He's a good athlete, right? If we're looking at arm talent and comparing him to the 2026 class, so last year's class, he has a better arm talent wise. Not saying he's more accurate than Mendoza, obviously, but he can throw the football with more ease from more launch angles than somebody like Mendoza in last year's class. I think he's more talented than like a Drew Aller, right? Like I think Drew Aller was like the most talented quarterback as far as like tools go. He's a lot more talented than Drew Aller, right? I think he has a better arm than Drew Aller, better accuracy. I think he's a better athlete than Drew Aller as well, right? Really good athlete, really good arm talent. The issue with him is that he's a bit streaky as a player. When he's hot, he's really good, right? Had an 8-week stretch or a 7-week stretch this year from weeks 2 to about week 9 where he was really good. Like one of the best quarterbacks in college football, 20 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He was not as good the last 4 weeks of the season, had a decent game versus Arizona, a decent game versus TCU, but a disappointing effort versus Utah, in a BYU game that was pretty forgettable, in a Nebraska game that's pretty forgettable. He's also 22 years old, spent 2 years in the Big Ten, the other 2 years in the Big 12. All of these things factor into him. He's not a home run, definitely going to be a first-round pick guy. He's a guy who had the chance to become a first-round pick if he played well. So I don't think you could treat him like a first-round pick if you are any team, because he just wasn't that level. He was a really good player last year, had some ups, had some downs. Strong versus pressure and everything else. His tape's pretty good. I'll do a breakdown of that. But I would make the argument that he is certainly if he were eligible in this year's draft, I think he would be the second best quarterback in this class. And I think there would have been a legitimate chance that the Browns could have taken him in the second round. That being said, I don't think the Browns are going to use a second round supplemental pick on him. Again, because of the gambling issues, because of the looming possible suspension around that could affect the value that you place on Brendan Sorsby. I would say third round is about as much as you want to spend for him in the supplemental draft. The fourth round is probably if like you're not dead set on getting him, but you want to get him if the value is good enough, you could throw a fourth round out there. Another thing to understand about the supplemental draft is that the picks that you're eligible to use for the supplemental draft are the picks that you have that are yours, not picks you've acquired from other teams. So the Browns can't just like use one of these other teams' fourth round picks in the supplemental draft. They have to use their own picks in the supplemental draft, and that goes for anybody else. So that's the landscape for Brendan Sorsby. If you're asking me right now, I'd be happy using a third or a fourth round pick on him in the supplemental draft to attempt to get him for these reasons. One, your quarterback room is bad. We got to just stop acting like it's not. We're hoping that Deshaun Watson has a resurgence, but the last time we saw him out there, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in football. Shedeur Sanders is a young player that you're hoping gets better, but the last time we saw him out there, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in football. As far as EPA is concerned, both of these guys were some of the worst success rate guys since 2023 out there. There's a lot of bad that's in this quarterback room right now, and the upside feels limited with this room. You know, you could throw in Taylor Green to that conversation. I don't think he's going to be much better than those other two. So you don't really have anything stopping you in this quarterback room. You don't have to know what Deshaun Watson's going to produce for you. You would like to know if Shedeur could be useful, but you don't need to know. You only spent a fifth round pick. So if you don't make your money back on that investment, it's not the biggest deal in the world. There's absolutely nothing stopping the Browns from taking a chance on Brendan Sorsby. And look, the Browns aren't going to be a team that we project to be bad enough to simply be able to draft the player at the top of the draft at the quarterback position. The Browns are likely going to have to get creative. They're going to have to look at avenues like this to solve their quarterback problem. And I don't see the harm in using a third or fourth round pick in this way. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.